I'd like to show you how to clean and oil your machine so that you can keep it running smoothly. So let's start off by looking at things that we need in order to clean our machines. To start with, we'll need new sharp needles. We'll also need all of the screwdrivers that came with your sewing machine. You'll need a good brush to clean it out. This isn't the one that came with my machine, but it is my favorite kind to use. Your sewing machine oil. Make sure that you have an oil that is specific to your brand of machine. Certain brands require certain weights of oil, so look in your manual and see what your machine requires. Also, Q-tips. These are one of my favorite things for cleaning a sewing machine because they can get into all the nooks and crannies and really pick up the lint very well. I have the little needle inserter brush that I showed you earlier. And then some paper towels or some tissues to soak up the oil in to keep your, dirty Q-tips on. So before you really get started, we want to turn off the power and unplug the machine. Now we want to unthread both our needle and we want to pull out our bobbin. Now if you notice, I'm coming over here to the bobbin winder because there's a little thread snip. You can also just clip it with your scissors if that's what you have available to you, because I don't actually want you to pull your thread out from the back of the machine the wrong way through the tension discs, because that's just really not good for it. So once your thread is clipped up here, you can go ahead and just pull it out the rest of the way. And now for the bobbin, you'll just pull over that lever, take off the cover, and pull that out. Next thing we can do is we can remove this that holds all of our accessories. And this plate here on the drop-in bobbin slides off. On some machines it may have an extra screw or something that you need to undo, but for this model it just comes off. And now in order to remove this stitch plate, I'm going to need to take out the needle, and I'm also going to need to remove the shank of the foot to be able to more easily work inside the machine. So I can use my screwdrivers to take out this screw and to release the shank and the entire presser foot. Now I want to take out my needle as well, because I wouldn't want to catch my fingers on that. And for that I can use that inserter to hold it, loosen my needle clamp, get that needle out of there, and then make sure that you tighten that needle clamp back up because you wouldn't want your needle clamp screw to fall out into your machine. So here, this little screwdriver is really great because you can get in here under the machine. Sometimes machines only come with the big screwdrivers, and those can be really unwieldy. So if you have one of these, it's so handy. Get in here and loosen each of these. You may want to have a little dish or something to set these screws in. Sometimes I just set them on the paper towel, but having a tiny dish also works. Just want to keep them out of the way, but you don't want them to roll off your table. Okay, so once that screw is loosened, you can just pull the plate right off. Now's a good time to look at the plate and to make sure that you don't have any burrs on it or any marks where maybe a needle has come down on your plate, because you'll need to get rid of those. So just double check it that there are no burrs and look at the other side and clean that off if it needs it. This machine is fairly clean, but we'll still kind of go through the process here. So with this bobbin case, we can actually pull this out. And we could take a Q-tip, we could clean all inside of this case here really well. And all on the outside, just make sure it's nice and clean. And then inside here, if you've sewn a lot, especially if you're doing something like quilting or you're using maybe a fleece or something that has a lot of fibers that come off of it, you'll get lots and lots of lint in here as well. So it's good to make sure that's all cleaned out. And then your feed dogs back here. Oh, yeah, we had a little bit in there. Make sure that those are cleaned off. That's a good place to use the brush in there to really brush that off. Now, something that I want to note is to never use canned air in your sewing machine. I know a lot of people are fans of it because it makes all of the fuzzies just disappear. But what's happening is that all of that lint is being brushed back into your machine, and your machine serviceman will be very, very unhappy about that. So you can actually use a vacuum to sweep all of those particles out of your machine. There are special attachments to use for sewing machines, but I just use the regular small vacuum head and make sure all of my small parts are very far away and just sweep out all of the extra lint. So next thing you'll do is you'll oil this. Now read your manual and see where it says to place the oil. Generally with a drop-in bobbin, there'll be a small sponge right here that you would then put 1 drop of oil on, just like that. So here that's oiled. I just need, again, the 1 drop, and then you can turn your hand wheel to make sure that that oil is going to be evenly distributed through the machine. One more part that I like to clean by using a Q-tip is to put a little bit of oil on the end of the Q-tip, and then right up here, I like to clean this off and make sure that that's oiled. That's really all that you need to do for this machine, because we're not getting into the head of the machine, we're not taking anything apart here. So once that's oiled, you can put your machine back together. So you can put that case back in, make sure that it lines up correctly. Then you can put your stitch plate back on. And all of the cleaning that we've done here, it's really good to do this about every 3 projects. Or if, let's say, you do a big project like a quilt or something that has a lot of fibers that come off of it to make it fill up with lint, you would do it immediately after that kind of project. Also, you're going to want to take your machine in for servicing about once a year if you really use it a lot, to make sure that it's well oiled inside. And you'll put this back on. You'll slide your other piece on, and then you can reattach your shank and put in a new needle, and you'll be good to go. So now let's grab the front loading bobbin machine, and I'll show you how to clean that out. So the first thing you'll do is you will unplug the machine, make sure the power is off, we want to be safe. And then we can go ahead and take this off. And you will already have the machine unthreaded. And we can open this up, and then you could take out your bobbin. This doesn't have a bobbin in it, but you would take that out if there is one in there. And then you would go ahead and you would remove the shank and the presser foot and the needle, and also take off your stitch plate, because there's likely going to be a lot of lint underneath there that you'll need to clean out with that brush. So you'll just be able to brush all of that out of there. So then there are these 2 dark arms here you can see on the side. Some machines have just 1 button that you press and all of these pieces fall out. But for this machine, we'll pull these arms to either side, and there's this ring that will come out, and then all of these pieces fall out. And by fall out, I mean that if I pull on this ring, both of these pieces come out. So in here, there'll probably be lots of lint. So I would take that Q-tip all around the outside edges, clean that off in here. And then once you have cleaned all of the lint out of there, I'd put a small drop of oil on the other side of the Q-tip, and then I would oil all of this in here. Now, you're not putting an excessive amount of oil, because that can also be bad for your machine. You don't want it to gum up. That's something that I think a lot of people, when they start off doing maintenance on their machine, they over oil them. Then you'll have oil that ends up on your fabric when you're sewing, and you don't want that. So just 1 drop of oil is completely fine. Now, I like to take that same Q-tip that I use to oil the inside here. I like to use it on this piece, all around the edge, make sure that everything else is cleaned off of it. And then this piece fits back in so that you complete the circle inside the machine. Now, it may fall out when you let go, so sometimes you just have to kind of hold it in there. Now you have this ring as well. check that, make sure that it doesn't need cleaned off or oiled. And then this actually has a little notch down here, and this ring has a little spot on it that fits right in there. So make sure to line those up so that then you'll have these little knobs for these arms to come back down on. Double check that there's no lint around here. You may want to clean off the door out here, and then you can put your bobbin back in your machine and it's clean.